afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum. For the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. We'll do the market watch, stocks we're paying attention to, plus all the local and national stories that you need to know around business, your portfolio, stocks, knowledge all around, folks, right? So let's get into it with that market watch. And here we are. Everything's down today, folks. Big sell-off today. Well, it doesn't help that the Fed chief, well, he came out, of course, Jerome Powell. He said stock prices appear, quote, fairly highly valued. Basically saying overpriced stock market right now. Well, that's where the sell-off began to happen. And Dow Jones right now down 106 points to 46,261. The S&P 500 is down 44 points to 6647. The Nasdaq's down 232 points to 22,557. The small cap index, yes, that Russell 2K, well, it's down 7 points here right now, 2456 for it. Then there's Bitcoin, 882 points down right now. Yes, folks, back down under the 112,000 range, 111,000 for Bitcoin. Here today, 111,903 is what we're looking at for Bitcoin. Is that sell-off there, I guess we can say, continues for that cryptocurrency here as this week has gone on. And that's weird because last week it was slowly ticking up to 115, 117,000, and then now down that 111,903 as of right now. Stocks we are paying attention to right now, well, we're going to look at Nexstar Media Group. Right, if you haven't been following the news on this, this is one of those ABC affiliate stations. They own a bunch of affiliates around the country. Well, they're up 0.47% right now. They were up bigger, as you see here on your screen, right? They were over 1% up earlier in the day. Well, why are they down? Well, they said they would not air the return of Jimmy Kimmel Live on their stations. They own a majority of ABC stations across the country. Jimmy Kimmel Live is returning tonight, according to ABC. Of course, ABC's parent company is Disney, so a lot of making words here as well. So they did. So ABC came out, the big company, came out and announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live would be back after the comments he made, week-long, roughly, suspension for him out there as well. Nexstar and Sinclair, by the way, we'll look at their stock in a second. Both said they wouldn't air it. They suspended Kimmel. They announced he's coming back tomorrow. And now they said they're not going to do it. Nexstar is like, we're still not going to air it. Well, so did Sinclair, by the way. They also said they aren't going to air the show tonight either. And Sinclair's the next stock we're going to look at here. So keep in mind, these are affiliates of ABC. Sinclair is still up, right? 4.99% up right now for Sinclair. As you can see, that took the big gains, come back down a little bit. So both of these broadcast TV operators, and they have a lot of channels across the country. So their stocks, well, generally up here today based off of that news. And then finally, we'll look at Boeing as well. Big news for Boeing out there. We got a story coming up on Boeing and some orders that might be coming up. But Bloomberg did report the U.S. ambassador to China said that U.S. and China are in the final stages of a huge deal for Boeing aircraft there for the Chinese and China company, all part of this trade deal we've been talking about. So Boeing's up 1.89% here off of that news here today. And we do have another story on Boeing coming up here in just a little bit as well. So some good news around Boeing here today. Later on when we come back, we're going to look at Kenvue. Well, they're the makers of Tylenol. See what their stock's doing today with the announcement yesterday by the Trump administration. Sempra is another one. They're an energy company. And then Micron Technology, semiconductor company, we'll take a look at here as well when we come back and look at the market watch in a bit. But first, some other news out there around companies, the government, etc. Well, let's start first with NVIDIA. They're making some big moves lately. NVIDIA plans to invest $100 billion in artificial intelligence, and that's specifically the firm OpenAI that they're planning to invest in. Both of these companies made the announcement yesterday on Monday. Well, the letter of intent came out and it said the partnership will allow OpenAI to build and deploy at least 10 gigawatts of AI data centers with NVIDIA systems. The first phase is targeted to come online in the second half of 2026. These companies aim to finalize the details of the new phase in the coming weeks. And then NVIDIA's investment in OpenAI, well, it comes just about a week or so after it committed $5 billion at that time to Intel to help them as well with their fab systems. So NVIDIA investing, I guess you could say, into companies that hopefully will buy their chips, help them out, help them grow some chips. NVIDIA with some more growth strategies here today as well. And I've got another update for you here on the TikTok saga. We do get a little bit more information. We know that Oracle's involved with this. We know that the Murdochs from Fox Corp they could be involved with it. We know Michael Dell companies could be involved in this a little bit. Well, here's some more info that's kind of leaking out. That Oracle will actually spearhead the U.S. oversight of the algorithm and the security underlying TikTok's video platform. So we do know that Oracle's goal in this and role in this process. This will all be terms of a deal that's laid out this week by President Trump's administration. So the details still need to be nailed down, but kind of what's leaked out so far, there's several people involved in this with who wants what, right? Oracle, we all know they're involved. Investment firm Silver Lake, that kind of leaked out before as well that they could be involved in this. And then, of course, as I said, the other day we found out about Rupert Murdoch and Michael Dell being involved in this process. The Trump administration, they would not have a stake in the joint venture, nor would it be part of the board of directors either. I told you, I believe it was yesterday or Friday, 6 of the 7 board members will be held by U.S. Consumer or companies that control that board as TikTok goes on. President Trump is expected to issue an executive order later this week. That's going to declare the terms of the deal, and then he'll say that the terms of the deals do meet the security concerns laid out by the law. Of course, the congressional law saying TikTok needs to go away if it's not controlled by a U.S. out there. So Trump will do that declaration. Now, the problem is China will still need to sign off on the framework proposal. So anything on that deal with China would still need regulatory approval here in the U.S. And then, of course, once it clears China as well. So we're still a long ways away, but we're getting kind of the framework deal more laid out here as the days go on. And boy, your kids happen. Now let's go. We talked to you about the Boeing stock. We looked at it. We told you about the China deal that could be coming here for Boeing. Well, we do know here that Turkish president did come out and say they plan to buy hundreds of Boeing airliners. Not only that, but Lockheed Martin jets as well. They're going to be over $10 billion in local production deals, what the Turkish president's looking for as well. All this comes from Bloomberg. He reported it this morning there, Bloomberg News did. The deals are subject to be approved by U.S. President Donald Trump as well. And, he's probably going to approve them. Obviously a big order here. The development does come ahead of a scheduled meeting between Donald Trump and the president of Turkey at the White House coming up on September 25th. Trump expects to conclude trade and military agreements in that meeting. So that does include the large-scale purchase of those Boeing aircrafts, right? But the Lockheed Martin side of it, F-16 major F-16 deal is what they're saying, but also a continuation of the F-35 talks that have been ongoing with Turkey as well. So huge options here coming up in terms of, United States manufacturing around aircrafts. Well, Turkey did confirm on Monday that they will negotiate the acquisition of the F-35 fighter jets during the meeting with the U.S. president coming up. Turkey did anger President Trump back in 2019, his first presidency. Well, they bought Russian S-400 missile defenses, which that, of course, prompted the Trump administration in Washington to cancel a planned F-35 jet sale and even remove Turkey from the program's joint production line back in 2018. Well, Turkey, of course, kind of kowtowed to that. They subsequently agreed to a deal to purchase F-16 jets back in 2019. They want more of those jets coming up. So Boeing, good news around Boeing and Lockheed Martin in this case here coming our way here in the United States. Little bit of an information here for you if you are a small manufacturer here in the United States. Well, this is coming out that the U.S. Small Business Administration, this would be the SBA, they announced that it would waive most upfront fees from small manufacturers in next year, fiscal year 2026. So that will take the fee burden out of the process here. The SBA will empower more small manufacturers. These are the NAICS 31-33. You're wondering which manufacturers we're talking about. So basically, without that fee being there, well, you'll get more capital hiring. And well, not just that, but growth, right? Production. You can bring jobs back home, supply chains, buy more product, national security coverage. All of that's out there here with that fee. For 7A manufacturing loans up to $950,000, the upfront fee will be 0%. For all 504 manufacturing loans, the upfront fee and annual service fee will each be also 0%. These new fee structures will be effective from October 1st of 2025 through September 30th of 2026, fiscal year 6, for you out there. So if you're in this industry, you haven't been aware of it yet, heads up here. Watch McCollum on business. Small manufacturers can visit the SBA Lender Match Portal to be paired with the participating SBA lenders who can provide the 7A and 504 funding at competitive rates. Manufacturers will they're encouraged to utilize SBA's new manufacturers access to revolving credit, the mark, for those of you that know about this process. So this is the agency's first ever loan program called Loan Program. Well, it's dedicated to America's small manufacturers for the first time out there. And here's an interesting stat for you. 98% of U.S. manufacturers are actually small businesses. Think of the big businesses manufacturing, the minority, right? 98% small businesses are manufacturers are the small businesses. And you also can reduce this loan fee. The SBA is eliminating barriers to capital so they can grow and they can invest those dollars back into the mission of building America's industrial base from the SBA. Everybody, yeah, I'm shocked by that. 98% manufacturers are actually. Well, we got another update for you. And kind of the timing on this is we knew it was coming. Been following the Spirit Airways saga out there. Second bankruptcy filing. They said they don't have enough cash to continue. They said last week, we told you here at McCollum on Business, that they're going to start changing routes, getting rid of some routes, focus on their core ones. Well, now we know about 1,800 Spirit Airline flight attendants will lose their jobs effective December. The airline has confirmed this. Obviously, December 1st, right before the busy holiday season. Traveling for Christmas and all that. And how many people are going to book Spirit Airline flights, right, into end of November there for Thanksgiving if you're not sure if the airline. The news comes after Spirit Airlines, as I told you, filed for that second bankruptcy back in August. And the big thing here, I was reading some more about Spirit. I just did a quick Google search. More and more, basically experts of the air carrier field, right? The Americans, Delta, United, etc. People in that field that are quote unquote the experts. More and more and more of them say they do not expect the airline to survive even till the end of the year, let alone a much. Buyer beware here for Spirit, but we do know of 1,800 flight attendants moving on here as of December 1st, and then got a big shift here in alcohol games, right? Coors Light was Bud Light was the industry leader for a long, long time, many decades. And of course, they had that mess up, I guess you could say, right, of the marketing campaign, etc. Well, now Michelob Ultra, big strides out there. Not only that, Michelob Ultra has actually passed all of its rivals to become the top-selling beer in America. It's all according to actual data, not taste tests, not asking people what they drink. Well, the executives there of Michelob Ultra, well, they credit the rise to the top as well in large part because of its heavily capitalizing on the sports industry's biggest events. This is an interesting, which by the way, Bud Light used to do heavily as well. By the way, Michelob Ultra it passed Especial. Modelo had it crossed up and moved into that number one spot there after the Bud Light fiasco. We'll call it that. Now, Michelob Ultra is passing Modelo at this point. So, Michelob Ultra is a brand under the same thing as Bud Light, right? Anheuser-Busch InBev, umbrella of that company, huge conglomerate that now is owned by a foreign company out there, and Budweiser, Bud Light, etc. So it's still part of that family, but it has become the NBA's first ever global beer sponsor. It's the official live sponsor of the upcoming FIFA World Cup 2026, and even the LA 2028 games and the Olympics. They're putting their marketing behind. They've garnered more than 20-year partnerships with the PGA Tour coming up. So long time, and I'm sorry, I said 20 years, 30-year partnership. So they're doing it by advertising with these big sporting. Circana is a company that provides data to consumer packaged goods companies. Well, they highlighted in its latest read that Michelob Ultra has claimed the top spot for the last 52 weeks within the retail channel. The beers also claimed the top spot in bars and restaurants during that same period, according to the data there from Nelson Q, and kind of put it all together. So Michelob Ultra, folks, right here, number one for them. Another light beer. Light beers will always be number one for a lot of that because it's favorite, not just men but women. Now we're going to move to. We hear a lot of stories about, right, don't go to college. Don't go get the English degree. Go to a trade school, right? Work on cars, etc. Well, just a little blurb here I saw, kind of just making your attention. If you're in those industries and want to get into teaching a little bit, well, your services probably can be needed because trade schools across the country, well, they're struggling to hire qualified instructors. This is all at a time when more and more young people not only are being pushed that way or told to go that way, the young people are showing interest in careers in those skilled trades. So the U.S. Department of Education reports at least 26 states are experiencing shortages in that career and technical education, right? That's the their shortages are in the teachers for this year. School leaders say they've been having to get creative to keep programs running, from changing program times that. I was reading a story about one. It's one called. Of course, we have East Valley Institute of Technology. A couple other ones out there as well, but I was reading a story about Apex up there in Colorado, where literally a guy that does electrical work. I just contacted him. They were talking to him, and he said, I'll come teach a class or two during the week." So literally the 2 days before school started, got a teaching job there. So he goes and does that, and then goes out and works. Things like that. So if you're in the trades, interested in becoming a teacher, it might be something to look into, either for a second job out there and give back, or something to that effect. But it is across the country. When we come back here at McCollum on Business, we keep this show rolling. We'll get into our local shows out there, or local stories, I should say, as well as into the stocks. If you like certain adult entertainment, heads up. Big change. Okay? Opponents aren't happy. We'll talk about that a little bit, right? And then Tesla is out there and had a certain approval that you want to know about as well. And then we'll wrap up with minimum wage. We have the official. We kind of gave you an estimate about a month or so ago in August on what it could be. We have the minimum wage here in Arizona for 2026 as well, and talk about that coming up, folks. Coming back. Call them on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on business. And folks, whew, what a weekend. It's only Tuesday out there, of course. The main event in the bag, quote unquote, in the can, in the industry wording there. Bruce Cooper joins us on Tuesday. Came in today as well with me and 17-year NFL veteran Del Hellestrey. Talked a lot of local sports there from 8:30 on, of course. We're live at 8 o'clock and the main event. Check that out. It's on demand here, Robat TV, on demand. Well, basically free podcast system. Wherever you listen to podcasts, follow that, listen to it. Of course, like that podcast for us and just subscribe to it. Just so it gets out there into the zeitgeist. And then, of course, the new thing is the free YouTube channel out there. Search at TME Sports Show. It pops right up for you. And for the main event with Stephen McCollum on YouTube, all of my shows are now on demand for free on YouTube here, right? The main event, McCollum on Business, the Pit Stop, which we did record, the Look Back show yesterday as well, where we look back at, of course, New Hampshire racing. Yesterday, the Look Ahead show comes later on in the week here, where we look ahead to Kansas. And Pit Stop's up there as well, and on the free podcast system at the Pit Stop Talk, on social medias there, and on Podbean as well. And, of course, when we wrap up this show here today, live at 11 o'clock, it will be published at Robat TV and on the YouTube channel as well. So find them there. Share us with your friends, and The Real Matrix out as well. It's on demand at Robat TV, and we're trying to figure out how to get it out freely. There's obviously some copyright stuff there with that show with some thoughts and some clips. So we're working on other ways to get that out. It is going out in a podcast form, I can tell you that. That'll be posted here shortly as well, but that is underway. We got a couple episodes up here, Robat TV, here for you as well as we speak. So with all that news, it's exciting times around here. And with that, let's get back into the market update. How long have I been doing this show? Call it the market update instead of the market. What is going on with me on today? And I had so much fun with Bruce Cooper on the main event earlier. Messing it all up here, right? And it's not good news around everything. You know, I told you earlier, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, he came out and said stock prices appear fairly highly valued, is his phrase that he used for those stock prices, which of course means markets sell off a little bit today. As he says, stocks are inflated in pricing is basically what he says out there right now. And S&P's coming down from its record high. As you see, everything's down today. Dow Jones is down that 100 points right now. S&P 500 is down 42 points. The Nasdaq's down 225 points. That small cap index, the Russell 2K, is down 6 points. And then Bitcoin, well, still in that 111,000 range, 111,765 as of right now. Bitcoin receding backwards here from that 117,000 range that it was at the stocks we're paying attention to. Well, this time, let's look at that Tylenol parent company called Kenvue. Well, they're up 2.24% today. Well, they were down over 7% yesterday. Obviously, the big announcement, if you didn't hear, Trump administration leaned on an unproven link between autism and acetaminophen, the ingredient in Tylenol there, during pregnancy. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And what they're talking about. I do know Kenvue getting a little bit recovery today. 7% yesterday, down 2.18% up here today for Kenvue, the parent of Tylenol out there. Then Sempra is the next stock we're going to look at. They're an energy company. They're up 3.87% right now. It sold a 45% stake in its infrastructure unit to KKR and the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board. They sold it all for $10 billion. Sempra also said it would spend $14 billion to expand its LNG facility over in Port Arthur, Texas. So Sempra right now up 3.88% and getting a lot of money and then spending a lot of money for that company. And then we'll look at Micron Technology. They're a semiconductor manufacturing company. 1.30% up right now. They were over 2% earlier. They're up in anticipation of their earnings results, which will be released Tuesday after the bell here today. So it just caught my eye that they're up on the anticipation, which tells me investors and people in these industries that watch this, they are pretty confident Micron Technologies is going to have a successful earnings release today. and they're drawing it up before that. After that, I suppose here, but Micron Technology reporting after the bell here today, and then we got some local stories here for you guys. And like I said, the first one be kind of, you know, how to put it, gentle on this one, in case there's young ones around you out there. But starting this Friday, well, Arizona will require age identification to access all those adult websites. Users will have to prove they're at least 18 years old. One option under the new law is to upload your government issued ID. You gonna trust a site like that with your driver's license? Question out there. Well, this is obviously a big deal to opponents of this law out there, and a lot of enforcement questions are out there by the opponents. As basically, the opponents are saying that they have found that consumers don't comply with law. We're not the first state to do it, by the way. Other states have required this. When I think Florida just recently did it in the last few months, and there's a couple other ones. But they say the opponents are coming out and kind of saying when members have attempted to comply, meaning members of the opposition groups, they have attempted to comply with the law in other states, 95% of the people actually left, right, and gone. And they say they've gone someplace else in the world. Doesn't have this verification. Obviously, the internet's global, so you can get around these types of requirements. So, adult websites outside the U.S. will likely not follow domestic laws. So that's how you get around it. That's my question. So they have to have. They probably. I'm assuming they have to have something in their system that triggers. Hey, you're in Arizona, so we have to verify your age. But I'm assuming these sites have to do. There's also some concerns against opponents who worry this could have, an issue with free speech on that side of things. The law is aimed at restricting access to sexual material, obviously to protect the minors out there from accessing it when they're too young to do so. Right. So that's a lot of that's the aim of the bill to get to that side. Well, then the other side of it is what's right? What's sexual material? What has to follow? Kind of what the objectors are saying, right? At what point do you stop asking for verification in this process? They say it's very open to interpretation. So the law, the person that crafted the law, his name's Nick Cupper. He's a representative from Surprise, a Republican out there. He said the law applies only to sites where a third of its content is considered sexual material harmful to minors. So basically, he's saying it's the hardcore sites, the ones that's what they're there for, as opposed to, maybe some that do other things, and then it's also on there as well. So, So that is going into effect on Friday. And it's just an added protection. They're saying the people that put this law in, made the law, voted in. They're saying it's an added protection besides just asking if you're over 18 years old. But that goes into effect on Friday. And got to protect the kids. Free speech, kind of a side of it. With the government coming down with this, I don't know. Interesting argument, I guess, that might have to be tested there in the court systems. And, we know we have Waymo here. We know Cruise is kind of here also as they're kind of coming back, or kind of went away and kind of coming back, kind of going away again. Well, we now are soon going to have Tesla robocars here as well, because Tesla has now gotten ADOT approval to test their autonomous vehicles here in Arizona. So, the government officials approved this, and you're going to see them here fairly quickly out there. So September 19th is when Tesla submitted the self-certification requirements to ADOT. So they indicated their vehicles will follow federal and state motor vehicle laws, regulations, and guidelines, is what Tesla said they will do. Well, we'll see, right? I've seen some Waymos do some crazy things on the roadway with nobody driving them. So Tesla said it only trained employees and contractors will operate the autonomous ride-hailing vehicles, and they also must comply with registration, licensing, and insurance requirements while they're on the road. So the self-certification requirements by Tesla are only for testing with the safety driver and the company has not yet submitted a permit application to offer ride-hailing services to the public. So they're just testing it. They'll have somebody behind the wheel monitoring it in case they need to intervene, get the maps of the roads, etc. Is all they can do. Just test it so far with the driver behind the wheel. We don't know when Tesla will start testing the autonomous ride-hailing cars in Arizona, or even if they'll initially, start in a certain area of the valley. Like Waymo at first was kind of the Chandler, Tempe area over there off of the 101. Then they moved to Tempe, etc. Now they're in a bigger swath of the valley. So we don't know if they're going to just stick in one area or expand it out completely later on as well. So Tesla has been approved to at least start that process here. So you're not going to notice it right away because there'll be somebody behind the wheel, but shortly you'll probably be seeing that. And we'll leave the show here for those of you that work minimum wage jobs or close to minimum wage jobs in 2026. Going to see a little bit of a bump coming up your way as well. We told you kind of the guesswork here off of the August numbers. The Arizona's minimum wage is tied to inflation numbers and specific reporting that comes out as well, right? The consumer price index is what it's tied to. And the minimum wage will officially increase to $15.15 per hour on January 1st. That'll follow. That's all because of that 2.9% inflation adjustment based on that CPI, right? The consumer price index that came out in August of 2025 here. This marks the 10th consecutive year of annual increases for the state's minimum wage. That began, they tie it together, and it was voted into tying it with inflation back in 2010 by voters, approved that as well. So $15.15. Now, there's some areas in the state, right? Flagstaff, we know. There's one down here, and then there's one in I know Flagstaff's one of them, where the minimum wage is already $15 an hour or over $15 an hour. So let's have to see what they do with their numbers there. But at least the rest of the state will get it bumped up here to $15.15 in actual side. Now, a lot of people will ask about tip people, etc. And I got to kind of dig a little bit here for this, but tipped employees, the minimum wage would also increase to $12.15 per hour. There's that $3 maximum tip credit that's allowed in that process as well. So, that's that. So Tucson, by the way, is the other city that is already at $15 an hour. We do know they're going to raise their minimum wage. I can tell you here, as I dig into this article, Tucson, they're going to raise their minimum wage to $15.45 per hour. Flagstaff is going to increase it to $18.35 per hour for their minimum wage up there in Flagstaff based off of this news. That actually just came up on my screen as we're talking here on those two cities. So the rest of Arizona will be $15.15, Flagstaff and Tucson, a little bit higher for those two municipalities out there. And folks, appreciate you joining us here for the show here on this Tuesday, McCollum on Business. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday at 11 o'clock live here at Robat TV. Catch us on demand. Share us with your friends, either on the YouTube channel, Robat TV. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.